Hello, welcome to Clarity Design. I'm going to whiz through some tools now on extrusion modelling and polygon modelling, and what I want to do in this tutorial is not really show you how to make a particular object, but give you a hint as to ways to approach modelling. Now the most common kind of modelling nowadays is quad modelling, where you're modelling with shapes with 4 sides and 4 points at the corners, and making complex models within that structure. But you can also use triangle models as well, and if you have something selected, you can see there I can triangulate a polygon model, or I can quadrulate it if I want to instead. So a lot of the tools in here are about controlling the faces, and the faces are made up, and cleaning up faces and models once you've started using them. We're going to be using right click and the marking menu a lot to switch between face, vertex, edge and object mode, just so that we can manipulate through this. So that's right click, and you just drag over whichever to turn into that situation. And I'm just going to take you through all the different tools you can use to help you get divisions into faces in the right kind of places. Let's start off in the Edit Mesh menu, and I'm going to take you through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different tools in here that you can, just so you know what they do. And before we go any further, let's start with the Cut Face tool. Before we go any further, it's worth just noting that down here in this bar, it will give you hints before you start using a tool. So if you don't know how to use a tool, if you want to use some of the others that aren't shown inside this tutorial, you could actually set yourself up with a few blocks like this and go and have a play with some of the other things, just following the instructions on the bottom. And if that doesn't help, then you could actually go to the Mayor Help menu and search for that tool and find out how to use it and what happens. But this will hopefully give you a quick start in it. So as I said, you're looking for quads, and whenever you divide up a face to make it more complex, or a shape to make it more complex, and to start making some kind of figure or some kind of model, you want to start thinking about where do you need the divisions, and how can I keep it in quads if I'm working in quads, or triangles if I'm working in triangles. This is the Cut Faces tool, and it's really important where the camera is, and I'll show you why. I click and I rotate round, and I can angle to divide this shape up. There we go. Now what that does is it cuts through from the angle of the camera, so you can see that division is really quite strange. Now that's made a lot of funny 5-sided shapes and 3-sided shapes, but what it has done for me is it's divided it in a particular way straight through the surface. So if I was going to then delete part of this surface and fill that hole, I could do that. The Fill Hole tool is just in here in Mesh, and then I could tidy it up a bit afterwards. So it's a good way of getting a division in a slightly more unusual or organic way. Let's look at the Control Z. Let's look at the next one. Remember, if you want to add any of these tools because you use them a lot to your shelf, you can do that by pressing Control and Shift. So if I press Control Shift, I'll get the interactive split tool, and I'll get that popping up over here. You see I did that earlier as well. And if you ever want to edit your shelves here, you can go in here, you can navigate shelf editor, and you can play around with these. You can delete shelf, I wouldn't advise it, but you can play around with your shelves in there. Anyway, I digress. So moving on, I've got the split polygon tool. Let's have a look what happens here. This is one of my favourite tools. That's not a split polygon tool, that is. Just to clarify, inside Edit Mesh, interactive split tool, as it's called now. So I click on one edge, I can click on another edge, and I can press enter. Now I could keep going all the way around, so I could go around the bottom, click on the next one. Let's just do that, and I could go all the way around as I need. But that's put a division into a face just where I need it and nowhere else. And on the first sight you think, yep, that's really good and neat. I've got 2 quads here, but just notice that because I have got a spot in the middle at the top, I actually have a 5-sided face there, even though it doesn't look like it until it's deformed. So I would probably want to clean that up in a model, looking for those flowing lines going through a model. And what those flowing lines do for you is they mean that when you start animating a model, you get a nice even deformation across the surface, and you don't get nasty creases and things happening. So that's why we avoid switching between quads and triangles in the same model, and that's why we try and avoid faces with lots of sides, because it stops them deforming in a way that you can predict when you start animating. And when we're talking about cleanup, that's what we're talking about. Let's move on to the next one very quickly, down to insert edge loop. Now this solves that problem of dividing things unevenly, and it allows you, from the edge that you click on, it will go at 90 degrees, and you can position it anywhere along that, and that will sort out that face for you. Go back into object mode and click on the next one, and in this one we will have a look at the offset edge loop, particularly useful if you are looking at manipulating or adding divisions close to a corner of something, so you can get a bit more detail in there, so you can see what happens there. Now the last one, this is interesting because we can actually do the same sort of thing using, let's go into object mode, otherwise we won't see it, using this input here, but sometimes you don't have the input if it's a duplicated object. So we can subdivide the width, height and such like using this. So I can just type in a 10 there, and I can subdivide it in that direction or not. So I can use the history, but if you've duplicated an object, you don't have this to do. So they've given you a tool in here to do the same sort of thing called add divisions. So if I go to the options for that, I can either add divisions exponentially, that's on all sides, or I can do it linearly. So on the U and the V, and you can see I've got some divisions set up there, and if I hit apply, hopefully it will divide it, yep, up as we need. But notice that this face has now got lots and lots of divisions and sides and faces, so it's not actually a very clean model at the moment, and it would need some work. Right, so that gives you 5 tools, 5 different ways of dividing up faces, and to getting a bit more detail in your model. Alright, I'm going to go and delete those now, and I'm going to start again with a cube, and this cube I'm going to put in the center because, as I said, we're going to do some extrusion modeling. So I'm just going to center that right the way into the very center of my scene. That's important because I'm going to use a tool in a minute that's going to really benefit from having it right in the center of the scene. And I'm going to start doing some extrusion modeling. Now, extruding is a really common way to try and get more detail into an object. So we've got a really simple object here, just a cube. I'm going to go to the face straight away, and I'm going to start my extrusions. Now if I click extrude here, okay, that's absolutely fine. I can also go up here, and I've got the extrude right at the top here, shows how often it's used. So I can pull that up, and I've got my extrusion. This is called the manipulator tool, and I can scale it in whichever directions I want. I can also rotate it if I wish. I'm just going to undo that by clicking on the outside edge, and I can change the different orientations, so from world to object or face, so I can play around with that. And in the latest version of mine, you've also got these thicknesses. If you click on the word and drag sideways, then it will allow you to manipulate in these directions as well. Okay, I'm just going to put a few divisions in there and pull it up. Oh, Control Z. Let's pull the thickness up a little bit. Okay, so I'm quite happy with that. That's what I'm going to go with for now. Oh, my man is really deep. I'll just sort that out. So I'll go to Object and squeeze it in this way. I have got another tutorial showing you how to make a spacecraft or vehicle, but this one I'll just show the beginning part of a torso. Now before I go any further, I'm going to use one of those tools that I had a minute ago. I'm going to insert edge loop, and I'm going to pick out the center of this, hopefully. That'll do us now. Okay, so how to extrude. So I've done one extrusion. Let's go to this face on the side. There we go, face here, and I'm just going to extrude that. Now if I wanted to, I could select 2 faces, shift select the other face as well, and I could extrude that out sideways or pull it out sideways, and then extrude it sideways, and you can see it automatically knows what I want to do is on the opposite side as well. But I don't need to worry about that actually, because I'm going to use a neat little trick in a second. I'm going to pull that back. Then I'm just going to select this face, and I'll just do the extrusion on this side. So I've not mirrored it to the other side. and I can rotate that around. And remember, the tutorial here, this is not supposed to be telling you how you have to make a model person or anything. This is just about getting you started. Do notice that I've kept the arms out to the side. This makes it much more useful, much easier later on when you start rigging this character up to have the arms out sideways, legs out, spread out sideways as well. Because that helps a lot. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to, because I've got faces, so I'm just going to select these faces down here, and I'm just going to get rid of that half of the model, and I'm going to keep working on this half for a second. Let's make it a bit more interesting. Let's go to the vertex, and I'll move some of these vertex in. You can see how you start to just get used to the different ways of modeling and the different things you can do. And I think I'll pull out these ones over here. You can see what I'm going for, and then these ones here, make sure I haven't selected, you see that, control, unselect that one, and then move it across. The telltale sign there was that the this pivot point wasn't in the center of these two, it was further back. And so we can press just 3 here to have a look at the smooth version of this model, which might be similar to what I would want to end up looking like. You can see I've got a nice rotund body going on there. It looks quite nice. Now here's the little bit of magic. If I go up to mesh, I can actually mirror the geometry. You've got different axes that you can mirror across, and you can change the way that it mirrors and applies what you want to do. So I'm just going to apply that. Control Z, so that is actually incorrect. Control Z and Control Z. Lovely. There we go, got there in the end. So Control Z, I could have worked it out, but yeah, didn't. Close. So you can see that it's merged those two faces together. Now the nice thing is here, if I select a face and move that about, you can see it's independent of the other side. So I've still got complete control of my model. Now at the top here, this isn't very desirable the way it's got this double line down the middle, so I'd probably want to sort that out in the end. But I could start extruding this and making a head up at the top. I'm not going to do that right now. Instead, let's go and have a look at the feet. Now this division is actually really useful for me because I want 2 legs, so that division in the middle down here is really useful. Maybe it would be worth dealing with at the top because it's going to be useful at the bottom, and that's the kind of thought process you'll be starting to go through as you start modelling out your characters. Okay, so we could start carry on with this for quite a decent length of time until we get something that's quite nice. I'm not going to continue with this model now. I'm going to leave it where it is, one-legged and a little bit odd. Do just notice that in this mirror geometry tool you do have a lot of options. Merging with vertex, connect, border edges are going to have slightly different results for you, so do have a play around with them and the different ways of mirroring. You might end up with some nice creative shapes and forms that you weren't expecting. Just notice how these lines are starting to flow nicely around the figure where we want them to. Okay, so we haven't got any weird divisions or triangles happening. I've got all of these quads, they've got 4 sides, and I've been dividing it up as I need. I've not got hundreds and hundreds of these vertex around for the computer to have to calculate later on, and vertex that I don't need. So I hope that's been useful for you. There's quite a lot in this tutorial, so you probably will want to go back and have a look at some of those tools again and have a good play around. I will leave you there to go and investigate, and I will speak to you again soon. Thank you.